Hi, my name is Maciej and today I'll show you the easiest way to learn how to code. First, I would recommend going to the website repl.it, R-E-P-L.it. Then, if you click Start Coding, you'll be presented an option to create an account. I already have the account here. After you log into REPL, you just hit Create REPL here with Python. A few seconds later, you'll be presented with an editor like this. On the right-hand side, you have the Python interpreter, which allows you to talk directly to Python and see how it responds, what it thinks of what you write. On the left-hand side, here you can write your code, and then after hitting run, Python interpreter will tell you what the result is. So I already have it set up with the basic elements of code on the left. They are also in the repository on GitHub. A repository is a fancy name for a place where you store your code. So after you go to this address, you will find this piece of code and a lot more. So I'll start with the basics. The most basic element is the comment, which allows you to add notes inside your code. Python will not do anything about it. It will just ignore it. Next thing is, I would say, the basic arithmetic operation. You can in fact use Python as a calculator. It even knows what a half is. But what if you want to store this value? For example, you want to add a half to plus 2, to 2 plus 2. So if you want to store this information somewhere, you have something like your calculator's memory, only more flexible. So let's say a half is 1/2. And now I can call it and see what the value is inside. So now what happened? I created a memory spot which is named half, and I have put a value of 1/2 inside it. And now I can use this half. For example, what is half plus 1? It's 1.5, obviously. I can also use so-called strings, which is a fancy name for a text. And you do it like this. You have to surround your text with either single or double quotes. Otherwise, if you try to write hey, Python will complain. It will exactly tell you that the name hey is not defined. Defined means it does not have any value or any meaning attached to it. But there is a word called len, which has a meaning attached to it. We'll get to this later. It's just important to note not to try to bash in or bash around with different words because, well, sometimes you might get lucky, as with this len, but usually there are some keywords which are special, and those are either function names or variables. For example, len is a function, and you could call this function on a specific text. And surprisingly, or unsurprisingly, it will give me a length of the text. It's just one of the example functions that you'll learn along the way. So, the next thing, let's try to get a specific letter inside the text. So I can do this by specifying index. Index is a place in a memory which refers to a specific spot. Like here, I'll put 0, which means get me the whatever is on the first place. Because in many programming languages, counting starts from 0, not from 1. Another cool part is that you can actually combine different things together. Like we have combined 2 and 2 to get us 4. We can, in the same way, combine texts. So I can have another text called name, which will be my name. And then I can combine those texts together. and still get the result. Although not too pretty, but still we're missing a space. But we have combined two texts together. So this is also something that we can store. And we can say that it is a greeting when you put a text plus name, and then we can recall the value and we'll get the same thing. What if we miss the exclamation mark? We can surely do so plus and another string, and that's how we get more strings combined with other strings. An important thing to note here is that we can have different types of variables. We can check it if we type in the function type, and in parentheses we'll give the thing that we want to check the type of. So now we have str, which is a short for string. We can also test the type of 1, which is int, which is integer, meaning whole numbers. There's also another type, which is a float. So if we want to check what the half is, and the half is a float. There are two different types of numbers. One is for the whole number, which is int, and the float is for fractional numbers. They differ in a way that sometimes when we need more specific values or more resolution, we'll use either one or the other. More information on that will come later. For now, we can just assume that if you want fractions, you will use floats, and if you want whole numbers like indexes or like counting, you will use ints. So this covers the basic types, the numbers and texts. What if you wanted to keep a list of values, like for example a guest list? You can use this in a quite straightforward way. You would have to use a square bracket, and then you can type in the elements that you want to put inside. And now you have your guest list. Which is a list of 2 elements. Another type of variable, which is a bit more complex, is a dictionary. It's like with the dictionary that you have probably on your shelf somewhere. When you provide a term, it will give you a definition. So if I wanted a data structure, which is more like a real person, I will type in person is, and then curly brace, name, which is the term, and the actual content, which is the definition of the term. I can type in another term, which is the age, and I can put 25. So now I have combined, so now I am able to cram up more information inside a single variable. Now I can refer to those building blocks of the person by specifying the key or the verb from the dictionary. I'll use square brackets for that. So that's it. When I refer to person, square bracket, name, I'll get Adam, which is the value for the specific key. So here we have the key, which is the name, and the value, which is Adam. And this can be more complex. For example, you can have a dictionary which has key, which is a string, key, which is an integer, and the key, which is a list, which is a list of strings. So you will use different data types to better describe things that you're dealing with. For example, if you wanted a person, you'd probably use something like this: name, age, interests, whatever you want. And that would be it for the very basics of the programming. I hope it's not too scary. You learned about the variables, you learned how you can combine them together and perform some basic operations, and for now, that's enough. I'll see you in the next episode.